Gary Daly with House Quest Realty again, broker owner. Decided to have a discussion today. We have many clients, especially when we're sitting down and doing a listing appointment. There's a lot of territory to go over. Of course, the appraisal is a lot of territory to go over. However, we don't want any surprises after it's listed and an offer comes in and there's misunderstandings on the seller's part. And they're like, well, you didn't explain this, you didn't tell us. Now, we've never had that happen because we always explain and tell it. So part of that negotiation. So just as an example, let's say we have a house, the asking price is $399,999. Good, solid market, well priced home, and a fair amount of showings. And first offer comes in. Let's say it comes in at 408,000. And of course, the seller's like, "Wow, great, I'll take it." We read the contract to them. Now we're already aware of this. We're just making sure they're aware of it. As we're reading the contract to them, the buyer is asking for an $8,000 closing cost credit. So what does that mean? Some sellers misinterpret it that they're paying money out of what they're getting from the offer and paying for the buyer for their closing costs, which is actually not the case. Many buyers today make a good enough income to qualify for the loan. The hardest thing is saving the down payment. So, so let's say it's a 5% down. The closing costs could easily be the whole extra 5% down, where it would be like 10% if they didn't have to pay them. So they're well qualified on the loan, but they're tight on money to purchase. So what they do is the lender will show them that their closing costs, points, appraisal, underwriting, all the different fees involved with purchasing a house, Chicago transfer tax, state of Illinois transfer tax, title insurance, adds up to several $1,000s. So instead of them writing the offer for 400 and then not having that extra 7,000 besides their down payment to close, they did write the offer for 407 or 408, and they asked the seller, say, we're writing you over, we're asking out of your equity based on what we're purchasing for you to pay the closing cost credit. So in reality, the 408,000 offer, and some sellers get this wrong, like, well, I'm not paying them. And I said, yeah, but if they had the money to cover their closing costs, they wouldn't write an offer for 408. They'd write an offer for 400. So they're really not asking you to pay for them. They're financing the closing costs over the length of, say, their 30-year loan. They're just asking for your permission that you're willing to cover the closing costs because they've made a higher offer. If you didn't, there's different scenarios, but basically they'd have to go back to an offer of 400 and see where else they can go. Family, I don't know, to borrow the closing costs. So that's why that's done. It's fairly common. It's very good for the seller because it opens you up to more people that can write an offer on the house because they can finance the points for the closing costs. So once you do the actual negotiation, so that's just negotiating the offer. So now they come out and under 5 business days, attorney approval, 5 business days home inspection clause, they run concurrent. They'll pay a professional home inspector. Now, the majority of these inspectors are pretty good. Some are not. It's just the way of life of anyone in anyone's job. Sometimes these home inspectors, and this goes against the rules, they're not supposed to do it, they'll be suggesting to the buyer what's wrong and how much they should ask for to get back. This is totally out of the home inspector's purview. They're not supposed to be bringing that up at all. And some of them do it, and we stop them politely, but we stop them. You're not supposed to do it. So let's say when he's doing the inspection, furnace, I'm just picking a number, 15 years old. Hot water tank, 18 years old. So they're still functioning. He does the inspection, they're working fine, there's no problems. So he's going to state on the home inspection that these are older appliances, older mechanicals, more towards the end of their life than the beginning of their life, kind of like me. So when you do this, the clause in the contract, which unfortunately, I guess a lot of people don't read it, or the agent doesn't read it to their buyer, or the buyer ignores it. I don't really know. But we'll have many times where they'll come up and ask for a credit for a new furnace, ask for a credit for a hot water tank. Now, in my opinion, that's out of line because the contract states if the item in question serves its intended purpose, it's working. It's not defect. It's not supposed to become part of the home inspection contingency. Plus, whenever we market a house, we'll have a list. We get the age of everything before we put a house up. We'll give that as a handout to any buyer looking, so they can't claim later that, we didn't know the age of the stuff. You got to make sure you're well prepared. And we are. At HouseQuest Realty, we do that all the time. So once they would come back, if there was an actual defect, as an example, a lot of times they find electrical issues. They may pop off the panel. And my father would do this, most of my friends' fathers when we were kids. Everybody was a jack of all trades, master of none. So they didn't have enough outlets in the house, but they had to add an outlet. They didn't have a big enough breaker box, so they would put two outlets on one breaker. Now, is that dangerous? Probably not from electricians I talk to. However, it's clearly against City of Chicago code. It's clearly against many suburban code violation it would be. Is that a legitimate item for them to ask for? It is, because you don't have to necessarily fix it, because that's the other thing. People think when they sell their house as is condition, that it means they don't have to do anything. That's not true. What as is condition means, they're not asking you to do the work. However, in the case that I just gave you of a double tap breaker, electrician may charge $200 to do it. So they'll come back and say, okay, we're still going to go through with the sale, but we would like both attorneys to agree that out of your sales price, out of your proceeds, that you'll cut us a check for $200 to cover the electrical issue. As long as that's done under the 5 business day attorney review, and if they need to, they could extend that out longer, and both parties agree to it, it's no problem, and it gets you past the inspection, and you're still selling as is. But again, I'm stressing, as is simply means they're not asking you to do the work. It doesn't mean they can't ask for a credit if they find something legitimately wrong. Now, as a seller, you don't have to say yes. There's no gun to your head. However, we would recommend to you, based on our years and years and years of experience, of what is proper, what they're asking for, what's normal, and what's not. So once you would get past all that, the final stage would be basically the lender would contact the listing agent, and the appraiser would have to come out. So all that work, all that time, everything has been done up to that point. Now it's in the appraiser's hands. The appraiser has to pull up all the similar comps, hopefully the ones we showed you when you picked your asking price, make all the proper adjustments. Some houses may be bigger or smaller, so you make an adjustment for square footage. One may have a deck, you don't, so they're going to make an adjustment for you not having a deck. One may have 3 bathrooms, you have 2. They're going to make an adjustment for that. And when they're done, the property hopefully should, based on good research from the listing agents, like what we do, that it would appraise at value, and then they schedule a closing date. And at that point, you're home free, wherever you're going to move to. You've already got that all picked out. You're going to close. You have a successful transaction. You know you were handled well. You know that you weren't taken advantage of in the negotiation. And you got what we call as realtors, and what appraisers call, true market value, which is the highest price buyers were willing to pay you on the open market, marketed to everybody that knew it was for sale, and all these things were negotiated out. And you should be very happy, because you got full market price and you didn't get gouged to have to pay for something that wouldn't have been in your purview to pay.